Listen, guys, this is Chris, and recently I made a video where I discussed incels and MGTOW, men going the wrong way. And a lot of people who watch the video were MGTOW. And a lot of my people who come here for nerd motivation and advice and help are MGTOW. And I was not meaning to be offensive in any way. And I did do research. People said I didn't do research. I did research, and that was the conclusion I came to based on what I saw. But what I realized, I didn't do enough research. So I want to talk about the things that I got wrong about MGTOW and why I'm still a little bit confused about the community. And I'll just jump right into it. There's no promos here. It's just me being a dude with a camera. So essentially, MGTOW, how I understood it initially, was a version of feminism, but for men. That's really the most succinct way I can put it. Where you give men more empowerment, you give men more power within themselves, and it allows them to, be better people because they're no longer relying on women for their validation. Now, before I get any deeper in this, I do want to say, I own and I know this, I'm a very aware person, that I get a lot, if not the majority of my validation about myself from women. If a woman doesn't compliment me, I don't feel like I look very good sometimes. I grew up with very low self-esteem. Girls did not want me at all, period, roughly until college. And then I got to college and things changed. I don't know what it was, but things changed. And I know for a fact that I can pinpoint the day that I finally started having confidence, because it was one girl that gave me one compliment that kind of allowed me to see that the other girls in the past that treated me like crap or tried to use me, which I totally own, that I was used constantly by girls because I allowed myself to, because I really, 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 really wanted their validation. And it was to a point of detriment where I felt bad about myself all the time because certain people didn't like me. And I found myself becoming more self-reliant on my own opinions, but still seeking that validation from women at the same time. I know it doesn't make very much sense. If you relate to that, let me know down below. It's where you find your confidence, you find your center, you find your things, but then other things will fuel that, i.e. a woman complimenting me, or a woman wanting to date me, or someone approaching me in a way of like, I want to use you for my sexual needs, if I'm being straightforward. I actually have always been kind of weird about women using me for money. So if I feel like a woman's taking advantage of me financially, I tend to back off, and I don't even allow that to happen. I always had a rule when I would go out when I was single that I don't buy girls drinks, meaning I don't want to be used. I want to, find a bond or a central place with a person. So the rule of I don't buy girls drinks was really, I don't buy girls drinks I haven't connected with. I don't buy girls drinks that I haven't had a conversation with long enough to justify me spending $7 to $15 on you. I will ask questions like, what's the nerdiest thing about you? Because that's what I want to know about. That's what's important to me, and that's what I try to connect on. So with the whole men going their own way movement, I understand where you're coming from. You don't want to be used. You don't want to rely on women. You don't believe you need to rely on women. But what really, I've come at odds with the community on is some of the people sound extremely sexist. Some of the people sound extremely misogynistic. Some of the people sound like they don't like women. They sound like they actually hate women, and they have a lot of disdain for them. And they don't want to use them for anything other than, simply put, maybe sex and not sex. There's some people who go monk mode, and that's what I learned. There are levels, and that's where I was wrong, because I just put everybody in one bucket of it being a male version of feminism. But in reality, it is actually a very empowering movement of men loving themselves and finding their validation in themselves, and not relying on women for that, or letting society tell them what they need to be based on a woman-based society. And I actually really applaud that. I applaud anyone who's willing to be self-loving and self-caring and go their own way, literally, and not need anyone else for validation. Now, I'm saying this as someone who does need that validation and has worked hard to work past it, and also love myself in the same vein. I was really wrong about the community being these people that really, really hated others. The things they just want to love themselves, and they're tired of looking at women as a source of their motivation, because it's almost futile because they see women as using us. They see women as purely being at times lesser beings, and that's where I don't agree, because I've heard people in some of these videos and in my research say that women are lesser beings. They're not as smart as men. They can't accomplish as much as men. Their emotions get in their way, etc., etc., etc. And I pulled some clips, but I'm just like, I can't get behind that. I can get behind the empowering part, but I can't get behind you saying that a woman is worse than a man in any level, because I think that we're all equal. We're just different, and every woman isn't the same as every other woman. There are outliers in every situation, and that's why I really have to just kind of push against that concept. But as a conversational piece, though, I was definitely wrong to put everybody into one bucket. I was definitely wrong to, even compare it to incels, because I think incels and men going the wrong way are very different things, and they need to be separated. But I get that it came about in the same way. I think that incels are definitely more bitter. They seem to be very angry towards the other sex, and men going their own way are like, you know what, this isn't working out for me. I'm going to find my own path. And because of the levels where some men don't want to cohabitate with women, they don't want to date women, they only want to maybe mate with them. Some of them don't mate at all. Some of them, have a very strict way they go about their lives. But the thing is that I think is the strongest part is where they don't need women to make themselves feel good or accomplish their goals. They also fall into this fringe category too of blaming the government, which I'm like, okay, I can see some of that. I totally have always questioned the idea of a mother getting the child over the man, even if the man has a job and whatnot. I won't say who it is, but there are people in my life who got custody of their children, and yet they've never had a real job in their lives, or they're struggling. But meanwhile, the father, the male, is actually thriving, but he's not allowed to raise his children, which he would actually be better fit to give them a better lifestyle. But because of the society saying that children need their mothers more than their fathers, that doesn't always happen. And I think that really does suck. I would love to say that, we should all be equal there, but it's not equal. It's very much so pushing in the direction of the woman. Even with the Me Too movement, a lot of people will jump all over the man the minute the woman says something without hearing all of the evidence. And that is not only the government, but it's also societal. And to the point of the government being involved, I totally understand. I actually really agree with this point. I hate that freaking divorce is leaning so much more heavily towards the woman than the male. I am divorced, and luckily we're amicable, so I don't have to deal with anything major, but there's a good chance that had things not been amicable, she would have gotten half of everything that I own. She would have gotten my paychecks that I still work hard to this day to get. And it treats our society in a really backwards way, because we're trying to grow towards a place of equality, a place where men and women are equals, a place where men and women can take care of ourselves, right? But we're telling women that, well, if your husband and you don't work out, well, we want to make sure you still have a lifestyle and you can still live. But what about the man? It's much more rare to hear about a man getting alimony. That's also because men tend to make more. But at the same point, it's if you guys are not working out and your relationship is toxic or it's just bad for one person, you shouldn't have to pay for that other person to live. Maybe I'm wrong, but I totally don't think that the men going the wrong way movement is wrong in that sense. But where I think they are kind of not really focusing is that this isn't a blanket thing. It's not every woman in the world is attractive. Not every woman in the world can get you to buy them drinks or dinner or pay for things. Not every woman in the world has that ability. There are women who aren't desirable. I mean, they exist. There are men who aren't desirable. So what about them? Where do they fall in this? There are some people in the movement who think that women should not even be allowed to use you for emotional needs, to talk to work through things. But what about when you do the same thing? I go to women when I have emotional issues and I talk to them, I vent, and I get it off my chest. We're all part of one human social cycle. Shouldn't we be helping each other? Shouldn't that be our goal, our aim, to be a part of a network of people that is always helping? I don't understand, the need other than not wanting to be taken advantage of. But that's up to you and the levels that you set for yourself. You don't have to blame women for that. That's up to you. I don't know. Maybe it's just me because I have so many women that are my friends, and we all use each other to some degree for varying reasons, and it's not bad because we're all here to help. It's a community. I don't know. I can really see why some men, though, get frustrated and just decide to reject the entire notion that we need to be with women. I get it. It's frustrating. It's hard. There are books written dedicated to how hard it is to date or find someone or connect with someone or keep someone. There are seminars you can go to. You can learn so much. But yeah, at some point you go, you know what? Screw it. Who cares? I'm done. I'm on YouTube. Trust me, I understand the mentality. I think also a lot of men just are tired of women being the ones who choose what happens when it comes down to the sex and the dating and the whatnot. So that totally makes sense to me why you would follow this path. And I don't want to disparage it. I don't want to put it down. I'm just saying that I'm humble enough to own that I was wrong about a lot of the issues pertaining to men who choose to go their own way. I honestly would love some advice from you guys out there who are doing this. If you're looking at me as a case study, as someone who, I love myself. It took me a while to love myself, but I love myself. To be real, I didn't really ever think I was good looking until a woman told me that. I honestly grew up thinking I was ugly because women told me I was ugly. I had friends, my guy friends, told me I was ugly. So I grew up thinking I was ugly. I still think I'm ugly at some points. But whenever another woman, or rather a woman, tells me, hey, you know, you're looking pretty good. That looks good on you. That gives me power. That makes me feel good. That gives me a lot of energy. And I'll admit, like, even like the chase of trying to date a woman, or like those flirting moments where you're just like leaning up and you're feeling yourself because she's feeling you. Those are moments I don't know if I could live without, and I often actually fear living without them as I get older. And I think I'm going to get really old and be kind of like gross looking one day, and then women won't want me, and then I'll just be really depressed. And I know that sounds super sad. I know a lot of you guys who are going your own way are probably like, whoa, this guy is lost. I'm just being real because it's the situation. So I would love to hear your advice of how you do that without necessarily going fully your own way. Because at the end of the day, we're all different, and I want to embrace those differences and encourage those differences. But I also wanted to have a real discussion around, you know, these concepts that I inherently want to reject because of my natural draw towards the opposite sex. My natural draw towards, you know, women validating me. My natural draw towards men, honestly, in most of my life, minus my father rejecting me. Like it's kind of funny. Like, my dad was always in my life. He's been a really great influence, and I don't have any weird like issues like that because, you know, I just had a normal childhood. But I often have never felt like I was one of the guys. I often never felt like I get along immediately with men until I meet other guys who are like me, who are a little bit different. And yet here we are with this men going their own way movement, and I'm watching the videos. I watched at least 20 hours of videos before I made this video, so I can really get in a good headspace and understand what I was talking about. And it does feel like a lot of these guys are like, you know what? I feel empowered by going my own way. I feel strong going my own way. I felt weak before when I relied on women, and now I'm relying on myself, and it feels really good. And I love that part of it. But then the part where you get into, like, you know, women are flakes, or women are this, women are that, it's like not everyone is the same. You got to meet each other at our individual layers as people. You know, I get it that there is a commonplace thing that happens. I get that. It happens a lot. But you gotta find your own way to unmask that. Again, with me, it's like, yo, I don't buy girls drinks. Asterisks. Let me get to know you. Let's have a real conversation. Don't use me. I'm not gonna let you use me. I've been used before. I'm done with that. But I also am not gonna look at a woman and say she's worse than me because she's more emotional. It's just different. It's just different. But I would love to dig into this conversation with you guys. It's really, I'm actually happy this is happening because this is the kind of YouTube I like, where people just talk about things and they go back and forth and they have convos. And people are very strong-willed and have emotions around things. I love doing the anime video game thing. I love doing the motivational thing. But with this, there's a story here. There's meat. I love meat. Okay? So let's get into it, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to talk about this. If you dig this video, you know what to do. Subscribe, like it, share it, and also see me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/blackmanpodcast. I broadcast every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central. I'll see you guys there. Ever use teleport.